When Patrick Williams walked out onto the bench in a boot when the Bulls played the Portland Trailblazers, I believe it was, I knew that this was bad, much worse than the franchise was letting on, because they said the boot was just a precautionary measure and that the pain he was experiencing in his foot was nothing serious. Well, days pass, Pat stays out, no timetable for his return. The team was being very vague about his status and whether he would be able to return soon to the court after the All-Star break, and I said both on the channel and on Twitter, I don't think Patrick Williams is returning this season. There are just too many signs pointing as to why the Bulls were not being transparent. The history of how these injuries and the way they're handled in the past have gone with this franchise. For me, the writing was on the wall that he was going to miss the season. And sure enough, we received that confirmation today when the Bulls announced that Patrick Williams would be out for the remainder of the season to undergo foot surgery. Just brutal news for Patrick Williams, who has now suffered his second major injury of his short career that will sideline him for most of the season. He also missed most of his sophomore year, ended up playing all 82 games last year, but this is rough not only for Patrick Williams, but also for the Bulls and their fans. This is a major setback for Patrick Williams in his development, who was really starting to make strides in the right direction when given more opportunity after Zach Lavine first went down. Like, people will focus on how he played when he came back after initially injuring his foot, and he played 4 games or something like that, but he clearly was not right and hadn't fully healed, which of course ended up being the case now that he's missing the rest of the season. Prior to that initial injury, you saw Pat being much more aggressive on offense. He was more efficient with his shooting than he was at the start of the season. He was playing better on the ball and being able to create his own shot and creating plays for others, but still, obviously has a lot of work to do. Don't get me wrong, needs to improve his overall handles, better decision making and awareness on the floor, but he was showing improvement, even though it might not have been to the level we were hoping to see from him having a breakout year. But what I will say though is, it's a good thing the Bulls didn't sign him to an early extension this offseason. And the one silver lining in all of this, which I say that for the fans and the Bulls as an organization, not really for Patrick Williams, but the good thing from this is the Bulls are going to be able to get him on a cheap deal come the offseason. Whether he plays on the qualifying offer, which I think will most likely be the case, to bet on himself for the one season and hope to get a big long-term contract as an unrestricted free agent, or the Bulls can sign him to a longer-term deal, say a 3-year team-friendly deal, maybe something in the range of what Coby White got, which gives the Bulls much more flexibility on their cap sheet going into next season rather than giving Pat $18 to $20 million in annual salary, which is what a lot of reports were indicating that he might get. But I don't know, I say that it's a silver lining, but really it just rewards this cheap organization and staying under the tax while re-signing DeMar DeRozan and keeping this core intact. Like, this is exactly what they wanted. Stay under the tax, have a mediocre team, and keep running things back. So yeah, I guess I shouldn't call this a silver lining at all. I just hope that Patrick Williams, for his sake, as someone who has been a Pat believer, even though I have been disappointed with him at times, but as someone who wants to see Pat succeed, and to have this happen to really cap off everything else that's happened this season just makes it all the more frustrating. It makes standing pat at the deadline all the more maddening when you really don't have much to work with for the rest of the season with all these guys out, and you don't do anything to bolster your roster or take a step back and try and retool. I cannot wait for this season to be over. It never ends with this team. Let me know what you guys think. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.